Her father was sick. Her parents were poor. She left for the city with one dream: to make them proud. But what she didn't know was that the woman who promised to help her was secretly involved in trafficking young girls. When she refused to sell her body, she was thrown out, homeless and hopeless. She wandered the streets hawking pure water just to survive. Then, one day, deep in the bush, she stumbled upon a dying man, shot and left dead on the forest floor by gunmen. What she didn't realize was that this man was a billionaire, and saving his life would completely change her own life. I know you won't want to miss this powerful, emotional, life-changing story filled with lessons, acknowledgement, and it will give you more knowledge and ideas in life. So sit back, relax, and grab your snacks.
Let's dive into this unforgettable journey. And if you're new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and don't forget to give this story a thumbs up if it touches your heart. The morning sun hadn't even risen yet. Charlotte was already on the construction site, her hands white with cement, her body soaked in sweat. She was the only woman among dozens of men working on the site, yet she outworked all of them. Her headscarf was tied tight, her palms blistered, her jeans torn at the knees. But she didn't care. She couldn't afford to purchase a nice outfit. She was working day and night to keep her father alive. Charlotte was just 22 years old, but life had aged her spirit. Her father, Ikenna, was once a proud school teacher, now lay bedridden in their tiny mud home in Nsukka, Enugu State. A strange illness had struck him down 2 years ago. Since then, he had been paralyzed helplessly, his body fragile and his voice seems weak and tiny. Her mother, Mama Charlotte, stayed by his side day and night, washing him, feeding him, praying for a miracle. But that miracle never came. So, Charlotte became the miracle they prayed for. She had dropped out of school and she picked up a shovel and she joined a construction crew. While other girls at her age chased weddings and selfies and selling of their bodies for money, but Charlotte seems quite different. She believes on working with her bare hands, and she joined a construction team in mixing sand and cement, lifting blocks heavier than her body weight.
"Wetin this fine girl dey do for site?" one of the workers asked mockingly. "Na man she be o," another man laughed. "Her strength passed my own o." But Charlotte paid them no attention, and she did not respond. Every drop of sweat was for her papa. Every blister was a sacrifice to push through the pain, and every naira she earned went straight in buying medicine and food for her dad. That afternoon, as the sun was shining brightly on the red soil beneath her feet, a black SUV pulled up beside the site. Its tires kicked up dust as it moved towards them. Drawing everyone's attention, out stepped a woman in lace, gold jewelry tinkling with every step. Her sunglasses seemed elegant. Her perfume followed her like a glowing trail of power. Her name was Madame G, the workers murmured. Charlotte looked up, her hand still on a headpan of mortar that was on her head, and she was puzzled at the appearance she saw. Madame G slightly lifted her head, and she seemed shocked while staring her eyes towards Charlotte. "Is that a girl?" She walked a distance over where Charlotte was, and her high heels sinking slightly into the sand. "Hey, you, what's your name?" Charlotte dropped her headpan and she wiped her sweat out of her face using the hem of her shirt. "My name is Charlotte, ma." "You are a woman and you do this kind of work?" "Yes, ma." Madame G stared at her for a long moment. "You're strong, I like that, and you are very beautiful, even while covered in cement." Charlotte smiled shyly. "Thank you, ma." "What What would you say if I told you I could change your life? Charlotte blinked speechlessly. Change my life, Ma? Madam G responded, yes. I live in Lagos. I own many investments and I run businesses. I help girls like you. Come with me. I'll give you a job 10 times better than this. You won't need to carry blocks again. Charlotte hesitantly nodded her head in agreement. She had never heard such words from anyone willing to help her wholeheartedly. Charlotte asked, Ma, are you serious of helping me out? Madam G nodded, yes, I see great potential in you. That night, Charlotte was brimming with excitement. She rushed home, her face seemed radiating, and when she got home, her mother was feeding her dad Ikenna, who was in the mattress. When Charlotte burst into the house, she quickly told her mom, Mama, Papa, Madam G said she would take me to Lagos. Her mother dropped the spoon she was holding. Lagos? Yes, Mom. She said she will give me a better job and more profitable job there in Lagos that will fetch us bigger money to take care of you and Dad, Mom. No more block carrying. Madam G said she sees great potential in me. Her father coughed weakly. Charlotte, be careful. She's from our village, Papa. Madam G is a nice woman. She helps people. I have heard a lot of good things about her and the many people she has helped, including those like me. Dad, I have to try my best for you and Mom. That night, Mama and Papa Charlotte couldn't sleep. Mama Charlotte sat on the floor, crying silently, her only child, her backbone, going to the city. Charlotte's father called Charlotte close and placed a shaky hand on her head, praying for her. My daughter, may you never be disgraced. May the city favor you. May you return greater than you went. Charlotte nodded head slowly, receiving the prayer while she was holding back her tears. I'll make you proud, Dad. The next morning, the entire compound watched as Madam G's SUV arrived in Charlotte's home, and Charlotte hugged her father tightly. I'll come back with money for your treatment, she whispered softly to her dad, expressing her sympathy. Her mother held her close, tears slipping on her shoulder. Promise me you'll never let the city change your heart and always be genuine, honest, and decent in whatever challenges you came across in the city. I promise, Mom, I'll stay genuine, honest, and decent no matter what. And Charlotte got into the car, and as the black SUV pulled away, she stared out the car window, seeing her parents fade into the distance. Little did she know, the Lagos city she trusted wasn't welcoming her with open arms. It was preparing to shatter her life. The drive to Lagos was long and hot, but Charlotte barely noticed. Her eyes were glued to the windows. She had never left Enugu State before. Every town they passed, every billboard, every tall building felt like a step into a new world, a better world. Madam G wasn't a talkative type. She doesn't talk much. She mostly scrolled through her phone and she made short, sharp business calls. No, transfer it now. I don't want any excuses, she ranted while making call on the phone. Charlotte sat quietly beside her, trying not to move around. Her bag of clothes kept on her feet. When they finally reached Lagos, it was like entering a dream. Towering buildings stretched towards the sky, gleaming in the sunlight. There were skyscrapers stretched far above. The wide express roads were crowded with people. Traffic was chaotic, but the city was full of life and entertaining. Everywhere, people seemed in a hurry, chasing something. It was nothing like the dusty village of Nsukka. Charlotte's heart fluttered with hope. Maybe, just maybe, her life was about to change forever. Madam G's car slid in and drove into a gated estate in Lekki. It was more beautiful than anything Charlotte had ever seen. The estate was surrounded by high walls and electric gates, with electrified wires and bulbs were circulated around the estate fence. And they drove into a pathway, and the driver stopped in front of a large duplex painted pale. And there was white flour designated in the surrounding of the duplex. It all looked like a scene from a movie, too perfect to be real. Madam G's driver opened the car door,
and Charlotte stepped out, holding her small bag. "Welcome to your new life," Madam G said, smiling. And when they stepped into the house, it was like entering a palace. Marble tiles, huge chandeliers, sofas so soft they swallowed you when you sat on them. Charlotte stood still. Her eyes were wide open, and she was afraid to even touch anything. "You'll be staying here with me for now," Madam G said, handing her a towel. "Go freshen up. There's food in the fridge." Charlotte couldn't believe her ears. She showered in a bathroom with hot water. She ate rice with chicken, not the bony village-style kind, but fat, juicy chicken legs. That night, she slept on a real soft mattress with clean bed sheets. No mosquitoes, no bed bug. The surrounding was neat and luxury. She cried silently, not tears of sadness, but tears of hope. The next morning, she woke early, dressed neatly, and she waited for Madam G to inform her the day she would start work in Lagos. But to her surprise, no mention of work came. Instead, Madam G told her to relax and enjoy yourself. "You've been working too hard all your life. Let Lagos pamper you a little."
Charlotte nodded, unsure but grateful. One day passed, then 2, then 4, a week. No work. She didn't get any explanation from Madam G. And she watched TV, scrolled through the internet, and she helped in cleaning up the house here and there, but she grew restless, bothering about her father's treatment. Each day she delayed was another day her father wasn't getting treatment. One evening, she found the courage to ask, "Ma, please, when will I start the job you promised me?" Madam G asked, smiling from her spot on the couch as she sipped her red wine. "Tonight." Charlotte blinked in excitement, unsure what job she was about to be appointed to. "Tonight," she repeated, her voice full of anticipation. "Yes, your first assignment will come this evening. Be ready," Madam G said. Charlotte lowered her head in a bow, thanking her for her generosity and care. "Thank you, Ma." She rushed to her room and began ironing the only decent dress she had. In her heart, she was sure it must be a night shift job, maybe a hotel receptionist, a cleaner, even a night security post. It didn't matter, she was ready. But at 8 p.m., Madam G knocked on her door and entered her room holding a shopping bag. "Wear this," she said, throwing it on the bed. And Charlotte opened the bag, her heart dropped. While she saw what was inside the bag, she was totally confused and nervous. Inside was a tiny red dress, barely any fabric, just straps and tight curves. She looked up and she stared her eyes towards Madam G. "Ma, I don't understand." Madam G's tone changed. "You are going out with a guest. He paid for you. Wait." Charlotte seems frozen. "Paid for me?" "Yes, he likes fresh village girls. Don't act dumb. You are not here to cook and clean. This is Lagos." Charlotte's voice trembled. "But I thought you were giving me a real job. That's what you told me before I came over here." Madam G slammed her wine glass on the table. "This is the real deal, with a lot of profit to be made, and you will make 10 times your bricklayer pay in one night. Just smile and be sweet." Charlotte backed away. "I can't. I'm not a prostitute." "Then get out from my house," Madam G said, frightening. "Now pack your bag and leave my house." Charlotte stood frozen and confused. "Outside at this time of the night? In a strange city?" "Out," Madam G ranted at her. "You think I'm running a charity organization? You think I fed you for free? Get out before I call the security." Charlotte grabbed her nylon bag and her heart was pounding heavily. In frustration, no shoes, no money, no idea where she was. The gate slammed behind her with a loud clang that echoed through the empty street. She stood alone in the dark, quiet road, the lights of Lagos suddenly cold and cruel in the late hours of the night. Just hours ago, she had been full of hope. Now, she was homeless in a city that didn't care whether she lived or died. In the empty street,
Charlotte stood frozen on the pavement outside Madame G's mansion, holding nothing but a worn nylon bag containing her clothes and a cracked old phone with no SIM card. The street was calm, with only the distant sounds of cars and the hum of a nearby power transformer. She had no idea of where she was. A few hours ago, she was sitting on a comfortable couch in an air-conditioned cool room, watching Netflix and eating fried rice. Now, she was barefooted in the cold night street of Lagos, confused, scared, and humiliated. Her dress barely covered her thighs. Her braids were loose. Her voice trembled. God, what have I done wrong? She thought of her sick father who was depending on her and waiting. Her parents believing she was safe. If only they knew their daughter was stuck with nowhere to go in a city where nobody knew her. She walked without knowing where she was going. A few estate security man from afar was hailing her. "Hey, fine girl, where you dey go this kind night? Abi you be one of those olosho where they walk her for night for street?" Charlotte didn't respond to him. She just kept walking, hugging herself tightly. She knew the streets of Lagos at night were not friendly, especially for girls like her. Men slowed their cars and rolled down their windows, offering her free rides, but she didn't pay attention to them. Other men in the street were shouting suggestive comments at her, but she didn't respond to any of them. One man followed her across 3 streets, whispering, "You fine past all those Instagram girls. Come enter my motor. I go treat you like queen." She ran off. Eventually, she found an empty bus stop and she curled up on the bench that's in the bus stop. But even that small comfort didn't last. Around midnight, a group of young area boys stumbled in, smelling of alcohol. "Wetin this one they do for here?" one slurred. Another burst out laughing. "Maybe she go entertain us tonight." Charlotte jumped up and ran again. By 2 a.m., she had no choice but to crouch beside a locked shop, and she used her bag as a pillow and her wrapper as a blanket. The ground was cold and mosquitoes feasted on her legs. Her stomach growled. Her back ached. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she wiped them away angrily. "I won't cry," she whispered to herself. "I'm not weak." But inside, she was broken. The next morning, people began sweeping the streets. Charlotte stood up, dusted her wrapper, and washed her face at a leaking pipe by the roadside. A woman selling akara nearby stared at her suspiciously, but she said nothing. She had no money. Madame G's final words echoed in her mind. "Get out before I call security." That woman lured her from the village with promises of a better life, only to try and sell her to a man like she was nothing more than a piece of meat. The thought filled her anger and made her shaking. She made a firm decision. "I would rather starve than ever sell myself just to succeed." She began knocking on different doors. From one shop to another, she pleaded, "Please, ma, I'm looking for a cleaning job. Anything. I can wash, I can sweep." Most ignored her. Some men told her to come back, but next time, make sure you wear a short skirt, one said, winking at her. She went to another shop and she met another man, a boutique owner. He seemed nice at first. He told her to wait inside. Then he slowly locked the door and he leaned in close to her. "I can give you 20,000 naira today. Just spend one night with me." Charlotte bolted out of the store before he finished the sentence. Later, that evening, her legs were swollen from walking all day. Her throat burned. Her stomach was empty. She sat under a bridge surrounded by street boys and beggars. Some of them smoked. One girl was sitting down quietly minding her business. Another was laughing madly to herself. Charlotte curled up in a corner using her wrapper as cover, ignoring the rats that ran nearby. She whispered to herself, her teeth held tight. "I won't die here. I will survive this. I will make Papa proud. I will." That night, even with the fear, the bad smell, and being alone, Charlotte made a promise to herself. "No matter how long it takes, I will rise. I may struggle, but I will never sell myself just to succeed." By the 4th morning under the bridge, Charlotte stopped hoping someone would rescue her. She realized her hope was a luxury she could no longer afford. Her body had grown leaner. Her cheeks no longer held the softness they once did. Her once glowing dark skin was now dusty and dry from days in the sun and nights in the wind, but still yet her spirit was still unbroken. That morning, she joined a group of street hawkers who were gathering near a kiosk by the roadside, and they were all carrying rubber basins that filled with chilled sachet water known as pure water. Charlotte watched the girls. Some were her age and some were even younger, balancing rubber basins on their heads. They moved through Lagos traffic shouting, "Buy your water for 50 naira. Buy cold pure water." A young woman named Abigail, with quick eyesight and sharp tongue, suddenly noticed Charlotte standing nearby. "You dey look, abi you want sell or you want beg?" Abigail asked. Charlotte talked softly. "I want sell." Abigail looked at her from head to toe. "You get money to buy water?" Charlotte shook her head. "No." Abigail hissed. "Then go find another way to survive." But an old woman who was selling roasted plantains nearby insisted. "Give am basin, make she try. If she no return your money, na me go pay you."
Abigail reluctantly gave Charlotte a small basin filled with cold, pure water. "If you sell finish, bring 800 naira. The rest money na your own. If you spoil my water, you go see madness." Charlotte nodded in agreement, lifting up the rubber basin into her head.
That day was the first time she stepped into traffic. Her hands trembled, cars honking, bus drivers shouted, conductors cursed. Charlotte laughed and walked away, but she muttered under her breath, "Pride go kill you." But Charlotte wasn't proud. She was desperate to hold on to the little she had left, her dignity. Some nights, the police would come and chase them away, shouting, "Clear out this place. You want to turn the bridge to bedroom." She would run with her wrapper and rubber basin, hiding behind kiosks. Other nights, rain would pour heavily, soaking everything. She'd curl up under an abandoned table, hugging her legs for warmth, whispering prayers sadly into the wind. Still yet, she sold water by day and she refused to sell herself by night.
Some of the other girls mocked her. "You dey form saint. Who sainthood help for Lagos? They play." Charlotte didn't respond, but deep down, she stuck to her vow like an oxygen.
One night, after a long day of sales, Charlotte sat under the bridge, staring at the sky. The stars blinked faintly above the smoky city, and she whispered into the air, softly and trembling, "God, I know you see me. Please, don't forget me. Don't let this be the end." She didn't know it yet that the next day, while trying to relieve herself in the bushes beside the highway, her prayer would be answered in a way she could never imagine or expect.
It was a hot afternoon, the air full of dust. Traffic in Lagos stretched as far as the eye could see, and the sun shined radiant and bright fully in the sky, relentless, burning all skin it touched. Charlotte walking through the packed cars on the expressway, shouting, "Pure water! Buy your cold water for 50 naira!" Her rubber basin was half empty, her throat dry. She was sweating profusely, and she hadn't eaten anything all day. As the traffic jam finally started moving, Charlotte felt a sudden pressure in her stomach. That made her stop walking. She needed to go to the toilet badly, but there were no public restrooms nearby. And even if there were, she had no money to pay. She looked around nervously, and she remembered a bushy patch of land behind the highway, overgrown with weeds and trees. And she quickly held her rubber basin tight, and she hurried towards it. As she stepped into the shade of the trees, she bent down behind a thick bush and tried to relieve herself quickly. The smell of wet soil and decaying garbage filled the air. Just as she finished, and she was adjusting her wrapper, and suddenly heard a strange sound, a voice, faint, broken, far away. "Help! Please! Somebody! Help me!" Charlotte Sims froze. She turned her head slowly, her heart beating fast. The voice came up again, weaker this time. "Please, don't let me die." Fear and curiosity fought inside her, and she carefully tiptoed towards the direction of the voice. The bushes rustled under her feet. Her heart pounded louder with every step. Then she eventually saw the strange occurrence inside the bush where the voice was coming from.
Lying behind a broken pile of old tires lay a man in a torn suit. His white shirt was soaked with blood. His hands were tied behind his back. His legs were bound tight. His face was swollen. A deep cut on his forehead leaked fresh blood. His lips trembled. His chest rose and fell slowly, each breath a struggle to stay alive. Charlotte breathed in sharply, and she dropped her rubber basin and ran to him. The man opened his eyes weakly. When he saw her face, he whispered, "Please don't let me die." Then he lost consciousness. Charlotte stood there frozen, her mind spinning. What was this? Who was he? Was this a setup? A trap? But something deep inside her stirred. This man was dying. He needed help. She acted without thinking twice. Charlotte quickly bent down and tried to lift him. He was heavier, at least twice her weight, but desperation and a rush of courage gave her strength. She dragged him through the grass inch by inch until they reached the edge of the road. Taxis sped past without stopping. She stood in the middle of the road, waving her hands desperately. "Please, help me, please." Most drivers honked and drove away. Some stared at her, then kept moving. Finally, a dusty old cab slowed down. The driver went down his car window and stopped. "Wetin be this?" The driver shouted. "Please, sir, I need help," she cried. "He's dying. Please take us to the nearest hospital." The driver looked at the man lying unconscious on the floor. "You go pay me, Abi?" "I go pay," she said quickly. "I swear. I beg, just go." Charlotte helped the driver lift the man into the back seat. She sat beside him, holding his hand, praying silently. "Please don't die, sir. Please don't die." At the hospital gate, the taxi driver demanded 1,500 naira. Charlotte opened her small purse. Inside was only 1,100 naira, her entire earnings for the day. "Please, sir, this is all I have." The driver looked at her, hissed, and drove off. Inside the emergency ward, the nurses barely looked up.
"Is he your relative?" one of the nurses asked.
"No," Charlotte replied, her voice shaking. "But he's dying. He needs help." "Where is the deposit?" the nurse said. "I don't have any money left," she said. "But please, he needs help." The nurse shook her head. "No deposit, no treatment." Charlotte's voice cracked. "Please, please don't let him die. He was found tied up in the bush today. He has no body." She dropped to her knees. After several minutes of pleading,
A doctor finally appeared. He checked the man's pulse and shouted, "We need to stabilize him now." "But sir," a nurse said, "he needs blood. His type is O positive and our blood bank is empty."
"I'll give him mine," Charlotte said without thinking. They stared at her. "Are you sure?" "Yes, take it." Within minutes, a needle was injected in her arm. Blood drained from her already weak body into a blood bag. She felt dizzy and lightheaded, but she didn't care. All that mattered was saving him.
This man, this stranger, needed to live. "God," she whispered, "if this is my purpose, I accept it." An hour later, as she sat on a bench in the hospital hallway, her vision blurred, her head off kilter, and she collapsed. Her body hit the floor with a soft drop. The nurse rushed over her. "The girl who brought the man just fainted. Give her glucose. She hasn't eaten in days," the doctor shouted. And inside the emergency room, the man began to stir. And Charlotte's body collapsed like a fallen tree. One moment, she was sitting weakly on a bench outside the emergency ward, watching the world blur into spinning lights and white walls. The next, her vision turned black. "Madame, madame, nurse!" a passerby shouted as her limp form hit the cold hospital floor. A nurse came over, kneeling beside her. "She's burning up, no blood pressure, her pulse is weak." "She donated blood just now," a doctor shouted from the emergency room. "Give her IV immediately." The nurses lifted Charlotte gently and laid her on an emergency stretcher, wheeling her into a separate ward.
They slipped a drip into her fragile vein. Her skin was cold, her lips were dry, her heart beat faintly. "Who is she?" one nurse asked. "She's the one who brought in the man she found tied up in the bush," another replied. "She paid for a taxi. She begged us to treat him. And now she's the one collapsing. No family, no ID, no phone, nothing. Yet she donated her blood to save a stranger. Who does that in Lagos?"
Meanwhile, in the emergency theater, the man she had rescued, the man she dragged through the bush, the man she brought here with her last 1,100 naira and given her blood to finally open his eyes. The ECG beeped steadily. Slowly, his eyes fluttered open, struggling against the harsh white lights above. His throat was dry. He tried to speak, but the sound came out as a rough rasp. "Water?" A nurse leaned closer. "You are in the hospital, sir. You are safe." He looked around, confused. "What happened?" "You are found tied up and bleeding in the bush," the nurse said gently. "You've been unconscious for almost 4 hours. A young woman brought you here. She saved your life." His eyes blinked. "A girl?" "She's in the next ward, sir," the nurse replied. "She collapsed after donating blood for your transfusion." The man struggled to sit up. "Take me to her." "Sir, you've just regained consciousness," the nurse said gently. "I said, take me to her," he growled. His voice was weak, but it carried authority, a weight that made the nurse pause, sensing that this was no ordinary man.
With shaky legs, he stepped down from the bed, still wearing torn, blood-stained clothes. The drip swayed in his hand as he moved slowly toward the next ward, guided by the nurse. The door creaked open. There she was, Charlotte, lying on a hospital bed. Her face was pale. Her arms were strapped to an IV. Her clothes still dirty from the bush. Her body looks fragile, as if she might disappear into the sheets at any moment. The man stood in the doorway, breathless, staring. Slowly, painfully, he stepped forward and stopped beside her. "You saved me," he whispered. His voice cracked. Charlotte stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She looked confused at first in recognition before he faintly remembered his appearance. "You are awake," she mumbled. "I am," he said, lowering himself beside her bed. "Because of you." She tried to sit up, but he stopped her gently. "Don't move. You are weak." "I thought you were going to die." He looked away for a moment. "I nearly did," he said quietly. "But you dragged me out of the bush, called a taxi, paid with your last money, and you even begged the doctors to help and even gave me your blood." Charlotte looked down. "I couldn't leave you there. I just couldn't." "Why?" he asked softly. Tears filled her eyes. "Because even if nobody sees me, I still have a heart." The words hit him like thunder. This skinny, barefoot, nameless girl, homeless, fragile, had shown more humanity than anyone in his world had in years. "I promise you," he said, his voice trembling with conviction, "your life will never be the same again." At that moment, the door burst open. A man in a black suit rushed in, breathing hard. "Sir, thank God we found you, sir. Everyone has been searching for you." The man sitting closer to the hospital bed raised his hand. "Later, Isaac, later." The black-suited man nodded and stepped aside. He stood by the door, staring at Charlotte with confusion. The man turned to her. "What is your name?" Charlotte hesitated. "Charlotte," she said softly. "I'm from Enugu." He stretched out his hand. "Charlotte, I am Chief Maduka, chairman of Madu Group, and from this moment, I owe you my life." Charlotte stared at the man beside her hospital bed. Her heart skipped. Had she heard him correctly? Chief Maduka.
The name was not strange to her. Even on the streets, people whispered about him. The tech giant who built Madu Group from nothing, one of the richest men in Nigeria, a private man, a mystery to the media. And now, that same man sat beside her. His clothes were torn, his wounds were still fresh, but his eyes held something she never expected from a billionaire: gratitude. "You don't know what you've done for me," he said. His voice was rough but steady. Charlotte looked down at her fingers. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I only did what I hoped someone would do for my father if he were ever in that condition." Chief Maduka nodded slowly. He turned to his assistant still standing at the doorway. "Isaac." "Yes, sir." "Settle all the bills. Everything." Isaac rushed out. Behind the curtains, nurses whispered, "That's Chief Maduka, the real one. She saved him. That girl, oh my God, she's the luckiest girl ever." Chief Maduka looked at Charlotte again. "You still look weak," he said. "You need food, real food." Charlotte gave a faint smile. "I'll be fine." "No," he said firmly. "You won't just be fine." He leaned closer. "Charlotte, you gave me your blood. The least I can give you is a new life." Charlotte blinked, stunned by the weight of his words. Was this real? Or a beautiful dream crafted from hunger and exhaustion? By evening, Isaac returned. A nurse followed him, pushing a tray. Fresh fruit juice, jollof rice, fried plantain, grilled fish, warm water. Charlotte stared at the food as if she was staring at gold. Chief Maduka smiled. "Eat, please." She didn't hesitate. With every bite, the hunger melted from her bones, and for the first time in weeks, she felt human again. As the IV drip emptied into her vein, she finally relaxed against the bed. But her heart still carried questions. "How did you end up like that, sir?" she asked quietly. Chief Maduka took a deep breath. "I was kidnapped," Charlotte gasped. He continued, "It was a planned operation. My car was intercepted. My driver was gone. I was blindfolded and taken to an unknown location. They beated me for days and they demanded 50 million naira. Did you pay?"
He nodded. Isaac handled it. They got the money, but after receiving it, they decided to kill me anyway. They said I was a risk. They drugged me, tied me, and dumped me in the bush to die.
Charlotte's eyes widened. "They left you like that?" he said. "They thought I wouldn't survive. And honestly, I didn't think I would either. Not until you showed up." Charlotte stayed quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke softly. "You were meant to live, sir. God still has work for you to do." Chief Maduka looked at her carefully. "And maybe," he said, "you are part of that work." Charlotte shifted slightly, unsure of what to say. Moments later, a team of private security men arrived. Chief Maduka stepped outside to speak with them. Isaac stayed behind with Charlotte. The young man looked at her closely. "Do you know who you really saved?" Charlotte gave a weak smile. "I'm beginning to understand." Isaac lowered his voice. "Chief Maduka is not just rich, he is powerful, well-connected. People risk their lives just to get close to him. And you," he paused for a while, "you dragged him out of the bush with your bare hands." Charlotte looked away. "I didn't do it for money. I did it because it was right." Isaac nodded slowly. "And that is why it matters." Soon, Chief Maduka returned. He had changed into clean clothes brought by his team. He looked different now. Still simple, still sharp. He looked like the man from the headlines again. He turned to Charlotte. "Get ready. Tomorrow we are leaving the hospital. You are coming with me." Charlotte's eyes widened. "Sir, I can't. I don't even know what to say." He took her hand. "Just say yes." Charlotte looked at him, speechless. Tears filled her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. That night, Charlotte lay awake in her hospital bed, not because she was afraid, but because for the first time in a long while, she was no longer afraid of tomorrow. The next morning, Charlotte was discharged. She wore a simple floral gown Isaac had bought from a boutique the night before, along with brand new slippers. Her hair, still rough and uncombed, was tied into a hair bun. She looked like a girl still catching up with herself, but there was a new light in her eyes, a quiet flame of hope. Chief Maduka was waiting at the hospital entrance with his personal security team and a sleek black Range Rover.
When Charlotte stepped out, he opened the car door himself. "Let's go home," he said. Charlotte asked, "Home?" She didn't understand what he meant until they arrived. The car pulled up to a sprawling white mansion in Ikoyi, surrounded by high marble walls, security cameras, and a polished iron gate that opened automatically. A flourishing garden spread out like a royal court, with trimmed hedges and golden fountains. Charlotte sat frozen as she stepped out of the car, clutching her small nylon bag that still held her only 2 old wrappers. She couldn't believe her eyes.
The house looked like a palace. A maid dressed in uniform opened the car door and bowed slightly. "Welcome, sir. Welcome, madam. Madam." Charlotte's heart skipped. Inside, it was even more luxury. Crystal chandeliers hung on the ceiling. The floors were imported Italian tiles that reflected her bare feet. Paintings lined the walls and soft music played in the background. This is your house?" she asked in disbelief. "Yes," Chief Maduka said with a small smile. "And it's your home now too." Charlotte turned sharply. "No, sir, I can't live here. I'm not worthy of it. You are worthy of it. You saved my life. That is not a debt I can repay with mere words. But, you will rest here. You will be safe. You will eat and sleep in peace. It's the least you deserve." Her eyes were totally in surprise and amazed. She had never been in a house with a working ceiling fan, let alone one with air conditioning and imported art. A maid guided her upstairs into a guest room. The room was larger than her entire family's house. A king-sized bed with white silk bed sheets, a bathroom with a hot shower and rose-scented soap, a wardrobe with lotions she didn't even know how to pronounce. Charlotte stood in the center, frozen, unsure if she was supposed to sit or stand.
"Ma," the maid said gently, "you can bathe. I'll bring food." She nodded. Inside the bathroom, she stared at her reflection. Her face looked thin, her eyes tired, but she smiled. For the first time in forever, she smiled genuinely, fully. After showering, she was given a comfortable gown and called downstairs to the dining room. 3-course meal, chicken and creamy sauce, basmati rice, fresh orange juice, clean utensils. Charlotte ate slowly, unsure which fork to use, but no one laughed, no one judged. Later that afternoon, Chief Maduka invited Charlotte to the garden. The air was peaceful. Birds chirped from fruit trees. A marble table was in the center with 2 chairs. Charlotte took her seat carefully. Chief Maduka sat opposite her. His tone was softer now. "I'm curious of knowing more about you. Tell me more about yourself." Charlotte hesitated. "There's not much to tell." "Go ahead and explain to me." She opened up slowly at first. She spoke of her father, a retired teacher, now bedridden and ill. Her mother, who worked like a donkey to feed them. The job she took as a bricklayer to keep them alive. And finally, the Madam G. She said she'd give me a job. She lied to me and lured me to Lagos. And when I refused to sleep with the man she brought, she threw me out of her house. Chief Maduka's eyes darkened. "That woman, she will pay for what she did to you." "I don't care about her anymore. I just want to help my parents. My father's health is failing. We couldn't even afford blood tests, let alone treatment."
Chief Maduka was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke quietly. What if I told you I could fly your father abroad for treatment?
Charlotte lifted her head sharply in shock. Sir, I will handle everything. Full medical care support, and he will be admitted to a private hospital and the flight, and your mother will travel with him if necessary.
Charlotte covered her mouth, and tears of joy came out from her eyes profusely. But why? Why are you doing all this for me? She asked. Chief Maduka looked at her straight in the eyes. Because you gave me something no one else did. Humanity. When I had nothing, not even a name, you saved me. Chief Maduka stood up and walked toward the entrance of the garden. Oh, and one more thing. He returned with a small black suitcase and he set it gently in front of her. Charlotte opened it, and it was $200,000 in cash. Charlotte breathed heavily, her chest tightening. She backed away, trembling. I can't accept this. You can, and you will. Use it to build a future not just for yourself, for your family, for every girl who thinks dignity can't survive poverty. Charlotte collapsed into the chair, shaking. She had no words, just tears. The kind of tears that come when pain finally meets peace and joy. The sun filtered softly through the mango trees in Chief Maduka's garden that afternoon, casting a warm golden glow on the marble tiles and flowers in full bloom. Birds sang into the background, but Charlotte wasn't paying attention to any of that. She sat on one side of the white garden table. The open briefcase of dollars was still resting in front of her like a dream she couldn't wake up from. Tears streamed down her face, not from pain, but from overwhelming gratitude. Across from her, Chief Maduka watched silently. He didn't interrupt. He knew the weight of that moment. He had once cried like that himself, long ago, when someone gave him his first chance to make his first millions. Charlotte finally looked up. Sir, you don't know what this means to me. Chief Maduka leaned back in his chair. I may not, but I know what you mean to me. You saved my life when you had no reason to, and you didn't ask for anything. Charlotte shook her head. I just didn't want you to die. I didn't even know you were rich. Chief Maduka smiled. Exactly. Chief Maduka continued. Tomorrow morning, my jet will be ready. Your parents will be flown to India for full medical treatment. You'll go with them. I've already made arrangements. Charlotte covered her mouth again, shaking her head in disbelief. Your father deserves a chance to live, and your mother deserves to rest. You gave me a second chance of life, Charlotte. Now I'm giving you one, and doing the least I could do in repaying you for good deeds. Charlotte stood slowly, then walked around the table and fell to her knees before him. Chief Maduka gently lifted her up. No, you don't kneel to me. You stand tall because after all, you made me to survive. You are genuine and sincere than most people I know. She looked into his eyes. Thank you, sir. But before she could finish, he placed something else on the table. A house document, 3-bedroom bungalow. This is yours. Title in your name. You'll never be homeless again. Charlotte seems frozen. Sir, this is too much. No, not for someone who gave blood on an empty stomach, for a man she didn't even know. There was a pause, a long, peaceful pause. During the moment, Charlotte stepped back and looked up at the sky. She could see the clouds shifting slowly. Just days ago, she was hawking pure water, dodging area boys, sleeping under bridge. Now she stood in a billionaire's mansion garden, holding the keys to a new mansion. She whispered softly to herself, Papa, you'll finally get the help you need. Tears rushed down her cheeks again, but they weren't bitter this time. They were full of joy, full of healing, full of God intervention. Chief Maduka looked at her with the quiet pride of a father. This is not charity, Charlotte. This is harvest. You sowed kindness, and now you are reaping destiny. As the garden breeze blows the leaves, Charlotte took one deep breath. Then she whispered, "Thank you, God, for this miracle." Her story, once built on hardship, betrayal, and suffering, turned the final page into something far greater: redemption. Moral of the story lessons: kindness and integrity never go unnoticed. Even when the world turns its back on you, staying true to your values will lead you to your destiny. Charlotte's story proves that dignity in the face of hardship is powerful, and one act of compassion can open doors that even money cannot. We hope you enjoyed this powerful story. Please share your thoughts and let us know what lessons you acquired in the comment section. We do love to hear from you. And comment part 2 if you really want to see the end of the story. And guess what? Another inspiring and educative story is coming your way in just a few days. So make sure to subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification bell so you'll be the first to watch when it drops. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family. Thank you so much for watching. Stay inspired and God bless you.